Hi everybody. Um, so it's a snow day, and I thought I'd make a video. So I'm gonna turn this down because my cat, and then I'm gonna turn down the sound. My cat wants to be in the video. So I was reading through this book, and I just thought that I would, just talk about some of the stuff that I found in this book. I'm only on page 30 of a 309 book. If you've watched the last video, you know this. So I'm going to talk about what I've read through so far. I've taken notes on a lot of it, but, there's just too much to take notes on. So I'm going to talk about the transformation of the dead. Okay, so the transformation of the dead is was the process that the Egyptians went through whenever somebody died. We know it as mummification, but to them it would have been a spiritual ceremony where the dead would have become like the divine spirit. If you watched my self protection video, I talked about the saw, and the saw is what they did to the mummies. They wrapped them up in the white linen cloth, and they wrapped them tightly in the binding, much like a cocoon, so they could go through the process of transformation. Now, the saw actually was actually a form of magic, and in the Book of the Dead, it very much does talk about throwing away the bindings because they had to break out of the saw, much like a cocoon. Um, Another part of the saw was a mask, and I'm going to show you a picture of the mask. A picture of one of the masks that would have been worn for the saw. Okay, hold on. Can you see it? This is what would have been worn, and this book is Journey Through the Afterlife, Ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, edited by John H. Taylor. It does not say who was written by because it is a collection of different books of the dead and papyruses. But anyway, the mask looked like this for a reason. Okay, you see the gold skin made of the face and made the face? That was my cat dropping his water bottle. Um, what that was used for was to represent the divine spirit because it was said that the Egyptian gods had skin of gold, and the blue hair was to represent the Egyptians' deities also because it was said that the Egyptian deities had hair made of blue minerals like lapis lazuli, cat's favorite stone. Lapis lazuli was very much used in like lots of ancient Egyptian amulets and protection and such and such. So the reason for this is because the ancient Egyptians believed that the dead would pass on into the Netherland, and they would enter and they would mingle amongst the gods. So they would like to look as divine as the gods. Um, there are lots of different stories about how they would enter. The pyramids were built for the pharaohs, and how the pharaohs would be transported, how the pyramids would help the pharaohs ascend to the sky, and they would enter the day ark or the sun ark, which is the boat that Ra rides across the sky in, and how they would how they would sit in the boat with Ra until they entered the world of the afterlife. So that was one of them. But the saw is a transformation, and the transformation was the most important part to the ancient Egyptians because they believed it was entering their purest form, and there's actually a spell or an utterance in here about this, and so I'm going to read this to you. Because when the ancient Egyptians died, they believed that there were two things that came from them when they were died: the Ka and the Ba. I believe that's right. The Ka and the Ba. The Ba was the spirit, and the Ka was seen to be as sort of the life force passed down from generation to generation, but unique to every human being. So, like, what I think the Ka personally is like, it's a spiritual representation of DNA. And what I think, and let me elaborate on that. When I say that, I mean that I think it's like you get these traits from your parents, and you get this trait from your mom, you get this trait from your dad, and those two combine in a spiritual sense to help make up part of your ka. And then as you grow older and develop, the ka is becomes more like you, but the ka is also seen as a double of you. So it's a very complex idea to just you can't really pin it down necessarily. You have to just guess at it. But the utterance that I was speaking of that goes to the saw is utterance or spell 17 um, in the Book of the Dead, and I shall read it from the book itself. If a man speaks this spell when he is in a state of purity, meaning that if he is in his state of if he has gone through his saw or his state of purification after death, it means going forth after death into the day, assuming whatever shape he desires. The ancient Egyptians believed that the dead could shapeshift. They could take the form of a bird or of an animal or of anything. So, as for anyone that shall read it daily for his own benefit, in means of being hale on earth. What this means is that if you're living and you read it, this means that you are giving yourself great power. And to continue the reading, he shall come forth from every fire, and nothing evil shall reach him. This means that you can go unscathed by anything. You can go into a burning building and not be touched. Now, do I suggest that? Depends on how much faith you put into this. So, I would try it. It is a matter of millions of times true. I have seen it, and it has indeed come to pass through me. And so, what this is, this last line that I've read to you, it is not as much a part of the spell, but it's ensuring faith in this, because one of my favorite verses from the Bible is faith without work is dead. You can't just believe in you can't just say something is true and not believe in it and expect it to work for you. You can't just say the sky is you can't just say the world is flat and believe it's true and expect to walk off the edge of the world. No. You have to have faith in that, and then you might just walk off the edge of the world. You can't just say that there's like some big spirit in the sky granting people's wishes and then not believe that and then ask them for something and expect to get it. No, you have to have 100% faith in that. So back to the saw. The saw was the divine form of the human figure. Now, we as living cannot achieve saw until we are dead and until we have been, placed in our burial gardens and had the prayers said over us. But the saw was very important to the ancient Egyptians because it meant achieving your divine form, and when you would enter the afterlife, you'd mingle amongst the gods and the dead who are also in their divine form. The saw was a right granted to everybody, but you usually found it to be more elaborate for like pharaohs and people of high status because because they had high status and they could afford it. Now, basic mummification rituals were given to the poorest of poor, but the saw rituals, the masks, and the talismans that they were buried with to protect them from this and that, they were not given to the commoners. Now, the saw was also believed to give the dead. The saw was also believed to give the dead heka, or magical powers that the gods had and that made the Book of the Dead more useful to them. When I say heka, it's pronounced heka or hika. Heka meaning magic. I believe this to be the origin of the ancient Roman goddess's name, Hecate. Hecate, and she is the goddess of witches and magic and crossroads. I believe that Heka was the original word for magic. Heka is the primordial magic. Heka is the base of magic. Um, as I was saying, I'm sorry I got off track. Um, the saw was given to them to help the dead travel through the world to get to the gates to get to the gate of the west. The Egyptians believed that in between the gates of the west, which was where the Netherland, which were the gates to the afterlife, and between the living world, there was this world that existed, and an in between plane, and this plane was filled with demons of many forms. Most of these demons took the shape of snakes, going with the great snake, a pet, with the great chaos snake, a pet. Now, a pet is not to be associated with Set because Set actually tries to help destroy a pet because in Set's best interest, a pet should be gone. That was my fault. There are actually lots of spells to get rid of um, a pet or I'm sorry, a pet or any snake for that matter. I'm looking for a page in this book that I read where it actually does talk about getting rid of this snake spirit or snake like being. Now, snakes did not just have a negative look. Snakes were not just negative, but they were also positive because there were actually goddesses associated with snakes, like Wadjet, or or there's actually a goddess of poisons, and I can't remember her name now, but she was worshipped she was worshipped and believed to keep away snakes. Oh, here it is. Okay, so here is the so in this particular chapter, there's a snake. The Rerek snake. Let me spell that because I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Rerek snake. The Rerek snake, and I'm trying to it's demonic snake of the netherworld. It's an enemy of Ra. So I'm just gonna read to you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just gonna read to you the spell for this. Oh, Rerek snake, take yourself off, for Jed protects me. So what this says is that the sun is the earth god is protecting him. Earth god Jed, said to be lover of Newt. I'm sorry, my head itches. Get up, for you have eaten a mouse, which is the detest of which is the detest, and you have chewed which Ra detests, and you have chewed the bones of a putrid cat. So what this is a reference to Bastet, and Bastet is one of the goddesses that is actually helped slay the serpent of Pet by chopping off its head. A mouse god, I actually do remember speak of a mouse god who did help defeat this serpent of Pet, but I do not remember its name. But ancient Egyptians found gods in all animals, but they also found demons in some of the darker ones, scorpions. If you've ever heard the tales of the 7 scorpions, those are also demons. But by achieving your saw and earning your heka, you've actually. Now I'm using saw as what I feel as a word to describe it, but it's actually a term that would be used in I'm using it as a term to describe it, but it's actually a term that would be used to speak of it. So, but in achieving your purest form, your saw, you would earn the heka, or get the heka of magic, and then you'd be able to chase away these evil animals, or evil animals, or evil demons as they've been seen in the afterlife. Um, Now, could just the dead use the Book of the Dead? No. As I read in the book, spell 17, any man that shall read this spell for his own benefit shall walk through fire, touched by no evils. What that means is that this book, not only could this book help you while you were dead, but it could help you while you were living as well. Now, could you afford it while you were living was the better question. The ancient Egyptians actually were very concerned about their death, and it was very expensive to die to them because they had to be buried with these lavish items and these beautiful scents and these beautiful clothes and this gold and jewelry. And if you don't believe me, just go to any museum. Just go to any museum, but more specifically, go to any museum with the Egyptian exhibit, and you'll see this gold and these mummies everywhere. My cat's looking at something, and I don't know what he's looking at. And so I feel like I've touched on a lot of things in this one video, but the idea that I was trying to convey is the saw. The ancient Egyptians achieving their purest form through the form of death. Now, the ancient Egyptians only believed that you could achieve the saw through a purification ritual, which was done, which I feel that we as living can do now. We just have to adjust it a little bit so we understand how. We just have to adjust it a little bit. So how the saw would have been taking place was that one person, a priest, or most likely a priest of Anubis, because Anubis was the god associated with death and the embalming process, would say a prayer over the dead body while incense and resins were lit, so that the body was wrapped properly. So how I feel that we can do this now is that if you are in a coven, you could have a group of witches, stand around you, one taking the form of Anubis, and the way you take a form of Anubis is that you invoke Anubis, asking him to fill you with his divine energy, and that person would stand at the head reading the spell with incense and resins lit at the foot of the person receiving the healing, and people standing around the sides of that person, sending out energy bands, wrapping that person up. And that's how I feel that the spell should be done. Now, when you're doing this, you're also taking a position which is called the, you're also taking a position known as Ka, and you're giving that divine energy to, and it's actually a form of transmitting energy to a person. So it's, I believe it's called Ka. I'm sorry, guys. Let me just double check. Make references. I don't want to give you guys misleading information. No. Sorry. See, I know I was giving you guys wrong information. Ka is the embrace. What you want is to give the sign of praise and, just give them the energy and send out the energy towards them. Wrapping them in energy bands or in energy completely, burning a healing resin scent and having someone say the prayer over them, meaning that you are giving them the blessings that they need. And so, I hope that this helped. It was a little bit rambly. I know it's going to take forever to upload because it's like 20 minutes. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the saw, a little bit about what it was used for. I'll probably get some questions about it. I'll probably have some people correct me. And, as long as you're not doing it in a rude way, I don't mind you correcting me at all. Just please be polite about it. Like I said, I don't know everything. I'm not claiming to know everything. I just know some things. And what I do know, I'm here to share. So, thank you, and bye.